So yeah, we kind of like looked at this one image and just kind of briefly talked about the difference between user interface and user experience. So UI, UX. UI really does come down to like how it looks, the colors, the shades, the font, what kind of font you're using. UX is really more like the functionality, the flow, where things are positioned, because it's like, you know, it's more likely for a person to click a button if it's in the middle than if it's at the right. So it's kind of like the form follows function, like user experience is function, user interface is the form. But yeah, so when it comes to like CSS stuff, there's like a whole bunch of things. We're going to talk about like media queries today. There's also things like we don't need to worry about prefixers with React because prefixers, React takes care of that. So what a prefixer is, so one of the fun things about web development, and I say that sarcastically, is you're working with different browsers. You know, there's Chrome and there's Safari and there's Internet Explorer. So a lot of the CSS attributes might be different in different browsers. So you might have to do like some prefixers. So if we look at this, and like I said, this is something with React you don't need to do. But like for place, like a placeholder tag, we might need to give it a name for different browsers. This can make your CSS get pretty messy. There's also like new features with CSS. And so there's like this website where you can check like, hey, can I use? Because maybe you work at like Teleperformance like I did, and they wanted to support like really old computers because they had a lot of old computers. So if I was like, can I use Flexbox? You could go to this website and see, hey, like here's all the operating systems, like what browser and what version can use Flexbox. So Flexbox is pretty well supported now. I don't know what's a new one on Grid. Grid's actually. So like if you wanted to support IE, you know, versions 6 through 9, you could not use the CSS Grid. For this class, we just say, you know, the latest version of Chrome. So we don't ever need to worry about this. Just kind of wanted to put this in your mind, you know, when you're developing websites, you might need to go test them out in all these different browsers and all the different versions of the browsers. You know, or maybe you take out like a chunk, you're like, okay, we're going to do 10, 11 of IE, and, you know, we don't care about 6 through 9. So those are just kind of just like, you know, you need to think about what browsers you can use, what features you can use with each browser. Does anyone know what a media query is?
No, I don't.
So another thing to think about that makes web doing UI and UX with websites a little more challenging is not only do you have these different browsers, but you have different screen size. And like you could have a website on a phone, it could be on a computer, like on a TV monitor, or like on a small MacBook Air, or they could like, you know, make their window small. So like, how do I do different styles on different screen sizes? And we can use JavaScript for that, or we can also use media queries. And so there's stuff like this. So this actually, we can know like this, we can actually get this type of information. Like what kind of media is this? This is a screen. How wide is it? How high is it? this is like the browser width and height. This is like my computer width and height. This is the orientation. So there's all these things where like, if I make this smaller, like notice my width is going to be changing. So we can grab that and then we can do different styles based on those. And we're going to do an example with this today. So we can see how we can give different styles for different screen sizes. Flexbox. Flexbox is something, as you're going through this course, you should use and kind of get familiar with it. Flexbox is a good way to align like your stuff on your website. So it gives us a way to, center stuff. We can center it to like the left. We can center it to the right. We can have it spaced. We can align stuff to the top. We can align stuff to the bottom. We can align stuff centered. So it gives us ways to kind of, tell us how we want to organize our content. So as we go through this course, we'll do some Flexbox, and there's also like a resource in today's lecture that is just specific to Flexbox. So yeah, so those are just some kind of like CSS stuff. There's also CSS Grid, which is a new feature. CSS Grid is like kind of like Flexbox, but it gives you more power in like, it gives you like both the columns and rows. So you can really do some like more custom stuff with Grid. Cool. So
if you use Grid or something that's not supported on our browser, does it just show up on the browser as page can't be displayed then?
no, it would show up. It would just not have the style. So like it'd probably just be like, it would just look weird because it wouldn't like, you would have it like, you'd want it to be like maybe like a, you did grid and it would make it like, this 3x3 grid. And if they didn't have grid working, then it would just probably be maybe something like this, depending on what element you used. It wouldn't do anything. So yeah, it just wouldn't work. It wouldn't break. It would just, your styles would break. The app would work. It would just look weird. Cool. We talked about Figma. We saw Figma really quick. So Figma is a good place where, someone, like I said, someone without any code can come in and, design a website. So they could come in here and be like, okay, here's how I want this app to look. Now, this person might not know anything about coding, but they can come in here and they can make a pretty, nice looking website, and then they give it off to the developer and be like, here, go build that. So that's Figma. That's just like the concept of like wireframing and designing. CodePen. So
Wait,
Figma. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
just a question. Is a website like that? So whenever you get it designed, does it just produce out the code for you, or they have to code it themselves by off of how they see it?
No, you would have to code this. There's people that are trying to make it so you can design and just have it write the code. I mean, it does, like there is code, there is like CSS here.
It would like throw out the assets for you though, right? Like give you all the images that you can just pull from it.
Yeah, it would give you the images. It gives you all like the stuff you need. Where's this? Maybe this doesn't give, some of these do give you the CSS, but it's not like, I'm pretty sure this one does. Like here's the CSS, but you couldn't use this because stuff like this, it's absolutely positioned and you have a fixed width and height. Why is it bad to have like this fixed width and height?
And it's not dynamic.
Yeah, it's like, this would only work if the screen, like on a screen that was exactly that size, this CSS. So if I give it any other size, then it would just, yeah, look very, very weird. But I can come in here and be like, oh, okay, here's the font family. Here's like this stuff I can, you know, once again, I probably wouldn't want to copy and paste it because I'm going to want to like throw this into like a reusable thing. So, but this can be a good resource. You know, when we get into like, let's just see, Figma, Bootstrap components.
So with fonts and stuff, it looks like they typically just throw it in the index CSS. Is that like where you'd want to throw it so you can use it across the entire app?
Yeah, and we're kind of going to talk like, because with React, we're probably going to want to create like React components that match, you know, their design. So let's just look at this. I actually haven't looked at it. Like if we used Bootstrap, the Bootstrap UI kit, they might, so here they would, this is like, would be like a very like nice, this is what's called like a design system. So they're actually like giving you, okay, here's the colors you have access to. And, you know, let's just go ahead and share these like names and their values. So I have a primary color, that's going to be this hexadecimal value. And then we have these colors, and let's call them success, danger, warning, and info, because success is a much more readable term than, you know, this color. Because now I can be like, oh, success is going to be like green, danger is going to be red, that kind of thing. So, you know, this is where like the designer and the coder can like share these, like kind of this terminology, these values. And then they can go in and be like, okay, here's the text we're going to be using. And then like fonts, here's the fonts. I mean, this one's like have a lot of options. They even can come in and be like, here's spacing. We're going to use consistent spacing throughout our app. And because this type of thing can add up, like if you're like mix and matching spacing, like one's like 8 pixels and then it's like 9 pixels below and then it's 12. Like it's like, no, let's define some certain levels of spacing and then reuse those spacings. And then you could come in and like, here's what our buttons are going to look like. Here's what our forms are going to look like. And then they can come in here and like start creating like individual components. You know, here's a card, and they're even telling, like, they're giving you the spacing here. So this is what a card should look like. I mean, it's like, this is awesome because then I can, as a developer, like the designer's coming here, and then I can maybe think about how I can go design a card. Now with Bootstrap, React Bootstrap, let's go to React Bootstrap. Components, card. Well, someone's already done that. We want to use this React component. Here's the code for it. Because what they did, they had someone design it and then someone in React coded what's called a component library. So now it's going to match the UI kit. And this is really nice because when you actually go out designing a website, so you could have someone, and this is what I always like, I just wish I had worked at a company that did this, where the designer had to design with the components. Because designers can you know, they create this new thing and they think it looks great, and like they can like create a lot of inconsistency in the app. And like, but if you were to use like a component library and like be like, okay, designer, here's what you can use. Or if you were to go along with the designer first, and you as the designer and coder would go build out a component library together. If your company wanted like a custom one, that would be the dream. And then when they go out to build the actual UI, they're pulling from these components, because that's how you're going to code it. You're going to code it. You're going to pull the components from your React library. Does like at a high level, does that kind of like make sense and like why that's nice? It really puts the designer and the coder on the same page. But yeah, this what we see here, this would be like what's this up here. This is like our design system. And it, you know, maybe you don't have a full-on component library, but this would, I mean, I think most big companies are going to have like something like at least this, where it's like, here's the colors we use, here are the fonts we're using. Here's, you know, you can definitely get different varieties about how far in depth they go, but like this should be at a minimum. Like you have colors, fonts, stuff like that. All right. So when it comes to actually designing something, let's say you want to build like a page, or you want to build a website that you want to show to employees or like potential employees, and you want it to look nice. I'm going to say this, don't design it yourself. I'd say even if you're a designer, you know, you might not be designing the whole thing by yourself. We had one of our past TAs, they worked at as a project manager at MRM McCann, which is like an advertising firm. And they probably get like, if you want to work there as a designer, you're like, you know, you're pretty skilled. They're like a huge advertising firm. So if you want to be a designer at an advertising firm, you got to be pretty good. And he was saying, what I'm saying is that their designers themselves, they're not just pulling things from their head and designing. They are like looking out for inspiration, taking other people's ideas, mix and matching. I kind of consider it like when it comes to design, like be a DJ, like go out and look like DJ, a good DJ will like, it's not just, it's not, I don't want to say it's like stealing. You go out, a good DJ will go like, take different people's music and combine it in a good way. So there is, you know, there's definitely, the designer can like mix and match good. So designers definitely have skill, but when you're, especially if you don't have any design experience, do not, and you want to like make something look good, do not design it yourself. There's this website called Dribble. This is kind of like a GitHub for designers. It's not, I mean, it's not like a repository, but this is where you can go, like where people will throw up their designs. So this is how you can like, you know, you go look at some like awesome like UIs, UXs, and you can get some inspiration about how for this to look. I mean, this is what, like, when I was at Teleperformance and we were going to like start building out some new apps, me and my like boss were just like on Dribble for like hours together, just kind of looking at like, I mean, we had our list of features we knew we had to do, but then we're like, kind of getting inspiration. Like we did a lot of like dashboard stuff. So we would look at something like this and we'd be like, oh, okay, cool. Like we could use, like, this looks good. We could maybe, have this be our employees and total sales and, sites. And yeah, we do want a map. So you can kind of come through and look at this, and then you can get inspiration on how it should actually look. Does that make sense? So use Dribble as like a place to go look at where designers, like, this is where like some of the best designers will put their stuff. And I know like they're just copying each other and kind of like putting their own thing on it. That's what people do. It's like you take people's ideas and you kind of make it your own. That's what like good artists do. That's what good musicians do. Because I mean, these all like essentially in a very similar way look the same.
Does it show you the code?
No, this is not going to be code. There's going to be no code with this. It might, some of them might have like resources attached, or they might have like, they might connect to like Figmas or like other Figma type stuff, but where you can go in and like maybe look at like you can in Figma, go check out like the font size and things like that. But yeah, they're definitely not going to have code. But as a front, like if you're a front end developer, like it'd almost be like, yeah, I give you something that looks like this and you can code it like without any code. You might have to tell me the color and like the spacing and the font size and font weight and that kind of thing, but I should be able to like go and code that in CSS if I'm like a front-end developer. Like if they're giving me the code, like what is my job? All right. So yeah, there's some other things. UI goodies. This one just has a whole bunch of like stuff. It's kind of like a Craigslist, of just information. Like you want to go maybe look at typography. Like you can go look at some fonts. Oh, you're being redirected. Let's go to one that's just like there. You can look at some fonts, go explore. Like you want to go look at like colors. Maybe you want to create your own little like color palette. So you can go through and like select these palettes and like see how it looks. And then you have the colors. So it's a way you can, once again, picking colors is probably something that it's really hard to like go out and pick a color palette. But what you could do is go look through some color palettes and like see the one you like. So it's kind of like you can make it your own little like customize it a little. But you see, these all kind of like, these look pretty good together. You can get some inspiration, just, switching up your colors. So there's stuff like this, and they have a whole bunch of resources here. Design system. Okay. Google Fonts. This is maybe we'll do a quick little Google font today. This is just a quick way to like change up your font. Fonts have such a it's probably one of the easiest things, and to make your app look different, is just give it a different font. And it can really change, like changing your font really does significantly change your UI. So these are all going to be like, these are free. You can use them anywhere. That's the nice thing about Google Fonts. Like any of these fonts you can use. What else do we have? Here's just kind of like a list of, CSS commands, but there's also this just cheat sheet. Just if you want to go see all the stuff you can do with CSS, I mean, it's a lot. This is why we're not going to really cover it. As someone who like did a lot of like CSS stuff and front end stuff, I definitely was on Google a lot. And also another cool site was Code Sandbox. I think this was in it. I just skipped over it. Code Sandbox. Oh wait, no, sorry, it's Code. We've looked at that. It's Code. CodePen's a good one, because this you can go actually look at pens. And this one actually has the code. So you can go to pens. Oh, wait, where are my pens? I just want to show you. So you can come in here and like do a little. I actually did this all the time when I was just like trying to figure out how to do one little thing in CSS, like for my job or something, or I was like building something. Could come in and like just experiment, like, how do I make my font big? Cool. I can go in here and I can go experiments. It's a little sandbox. A nice thing here too, you can like I was like, you could come in here and do something like, oh, let's look at like how maybe we could do some columns. So you can do little examples to like see stuff. And then this is publicly visible, like anyone can see this. You can go to like, just see what other people are building. It's, once again, it's kind of like GitHub. Cool, so there's like a little scroll, so you could, and there's the code.
Does it have a search feature so you can look for specific things, or is it just kind of random?
You can, yeah, you can definitely look for stuff. Say we want to do cards. Maybe we want to go design a card. So yeah, we can go look at cards and like, find one we like. So, and yeah, this is nice because this does have the code. There's also like Code Sandbox. Code Sandbox is nice because it's like, it's more like focused for like libraries like React. Like CodePen is just nice if you want to just do some CSS stuff. You can throw JavaScript in here. You get like one HTML page, one CSS page, and a JavaScript. With Code Sandbox, this is always so hard. I always struggle with like how to search.
So with websites kind of like Wix, don't they kind of make it for you and you just design it?
Wix is gonna, I'm not like, haven't used Wix too much, or I never used it actually. It just more gives you like, I think there's like a lot of common things that like people might want websites for. Like, so I'm an artist and maybe I just want to like, throw up some images and, talk about myself, or I'm like a business and I just want a little like about me page with like static content and where I can like go up and throw up images. So that's where like Wix is, good. Like I can kind of maintain it myself. I probably don't need to know any code. I can go pick one of their templates and, I can make it like a little about me webpage. But yeah, Wix, you're not going to be like, well, I want to now. I mean, they might have, I don't know, they could maybe get into payment features, but you might be like, well, now I want, to be able to like connect with people and like have a messaging app. Well, it's like, well, okay, you have to code that. So Wix, I think, can give you templates for like a basic website. The second you want to like start storing stuff to a database or doing custom stuff, it's like, well, that's where you're kind of, that's why you need to learn how to code. And like where you're going to be working, like a company you're going to be working at, like a fintech company or like a healthcare company, like, yeah, that Wix can't do that. Does that make sense? Like Wix is meant for like simple web pages.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. That's just why I asked.
Yeah. So I have people like, people will come to me and like, will you build me a web page? I'm like, because they'll be like, I want this, this, and this. I'm like, no, because if I build that for you, it's going to be expensive. You should just go to Wix and do it. And because they just want like a little about me webpage where like they show stuff. It's like, well, first of all, like that's like Instagram. Just I had someone like, yeah, they said they wanted a website where they could go like post pictures of their work. I'm like, dude, Instagram. If you want me to build you a page where you can do that, like, I don't know, like anyone who asks me for a web page, I'm like, well, it's going to be a minimum like $1,000. And that gets all of them to say like, no. So yeah. What you're going to like, why you're taking this course is you're not going to be building those. I think those can be good projects where like, maybe they do want this special website for themselves and you can be like, okay, hey, I'll build that for you for free. And you can get that like experience, or like, I'll build that for you for a couple $100 and like, sweet. But what the goal is, I think with the boot camp is you're going to go be working for a bigger company where they're, they have a custom problem they're trying to solve, where like they have to code it out. There's not going to be like a magic AI tool or, thing that is going to do it for them. All right. Why can't I just, but yeah, so code Sandbox. I should also say this, I've never used WordPress. Like WordPress is actually, I think WordPress can be a little more like in depth, like there's more functionality. And I think you do need, like with WordPress, you need to be a little more, like you need to know how to use it. But so WordPress can kind of be like, you can maybe go in and add some code, or you can add like widgets. So there can be things like that where someone wants a website, they want it a little more functional, but they don't want a full dev team. WordPress can be an option. Okay. So yeah, with code Sandbox, I don't know, it's just you can go look at like React projects, or like it's kind of like CodePen, but then now we can like write in React. And yeah, I guess that blows up the word hello. So that's kind of cool. So it looks like this one, they're using a library 3, maybe that's like a 3D library. And, you know, this could maybe be something you could then go add to your app. And we're going to use Code Sandbox quite a bit because like CodePen, you know, this is a place I can just come and outside of like the context of my app, I can just try to get something working. And I don't have to like be doing this in my Rails and React app. I just like, and I just want to make my font big. How do I do that? Or I want to make my font red. I can't get it to work, but there it goes. And I figure it out. So we can do this with like Code Sandbox too, where we're trying to like maybe use a React library. And, you know, I like for this one, like I just want to try to figure out how to like explode the word hello. And then we can come in here and like, I have no idea how this library works, but you can come in there. Oh, look, what does this do? Like rotates it. I wonder if hello's there, if it rotates hello. Yeah, looks like I need to blow it up first. Then I can rotate it. That seems like it moves the X. But oh, this one looks like it's doing it like the one where it's like before, like hello. That's pretty crazy. So then I can come into Code Sandbox and maybe I want to do that like with a button. So let's just do like a, let's do X position or something. I don't know what that actually is, but. So this is awesome with Code Sandbox. I can take someone's like, someone has something working. Maybe I want to change it up a little. Just have that be 0. Now that's going to be X position. I'm also going to have this be X position. And then I can do like a button. You know, change. Click. This. I'm just going to add one. Let's just do our little counter, but instead of having to count, I'm going to have that change that X position. What is that going to do? Why doesn't it like that? Oh, this is on a different component. Let's look at this little bug together. So what I want to do, I want to have this button here in my app where I want to like be able to change this X position that I'm using here. But notice the way they set this up, there's actually 2 components in here. Which is fine. There's just 2 functions. I want to, when I click this button, I want to set my state right here in my app. But it's actually my scene component that needs this X position state because I'm using it in here. So how do I give that to this? Does that make sense? I have 2 different components. There's my scene component. Here I'm rendering it. Here's my app. In my app, I have that state. that I want to use this exposition in the scene, but it's in my app. How do I give it to my scene?
You have to put it in the little scene button right there, yeah?
Yeah, so the word is props. So I'm gonna do, yeah, I need to put it right there as a prop. So I'm calling the prop exposition and I'm giving it the value exposition. So notice the color difference. The white one is the actual value, the blue, this is just the name of the prop. So now I can pull that off of props. Button is not a part of the namespace. What, does it not like me using a button? Oh, is it in a canvas? I don't know. Oh, it might not let me throw a paragraph in here. Dang. Maybe I
Can't
can.
be an anchor.
It's in like this canvas component. So it doesn't like the fact that I'm trying to throw a paragraph tag in this canvas component. Dang it. Can I do the on click? I want to show it. Oh, there it is. Change. Okay, now I can click on it and now it rotates. Let's have that go bigger. Change buttons right up there. Okay. I guess I can't go past, it won't let me go past 90. But so yeah, code sandbox, pretty awesome because I can go in, I can look at other people's stuff, but then I can go in and like add my own little change to it. We'll be using, I'll actually be like, for the course, there's going to be times where I'm like, hey, let's go try to figure out how to do this in Code Sandbox first. And then let's try to figure out how to put what we did in Code Sandbox into our project. So yeah. A lot of Googling with styles, I would say. And kind of looking at like what other people, it's kind of like coding. It's a lot of Googling, but these really Code Sandbox. So we have Dribble, CodePen, and Code Sandbox. These can be really good. Like they're kind of like, you can kind of think of them as like GitHubs. Other versions, other places where you can go look at other people's work. Get ideas. Some like with CodePen and Code Sandbox, you can actually get the code. With Dribble, you're just going to get like, well-designed products. So, or some ideas about design. So when you get, let's take a break. Is there any questions on any of this? I would start finding, resources that you use a lot and then, bookmark them. Like, does everyone know how to like bookmark? You just take the, so you go to Dribble or you go to like CodePen. I mean, you can also just like Google it, but you just take this URL, plop it there. So you can have all of these. You can also add like a folder, like coding stuff. And that can be like a folder in your bookmark. all the way up here, and then you move it here. So you have code, you have like your code pen in there. You could have code sandbox in there. You find like a little cool site like, you know, this Flexbox that you want reference to. Throw that in there. You know, this one. So you have a quick reference like, oh, where's my coding stuff? Where's that like cheat sheet for CSS stuff? Oh, it's right here. What else we did? Dribble, like I'll throw a Dribble in there. So then this way you have just on your web browser, you have just a nice quick way to go find those things. And you can organize that however you want. Because this is like, this is going to be a lot quicker to find these resources than like going to Neo or sometimes going to Google. If you know what you're looking for, you know, I'm going to go open. And yeah, and as you find stuff, I like how how some of you have been like, when you find something cool, you like throw it out on Slack. Then you can take what other people have found and throw it out there. Where's that other one? UI goodies. This should be like one you have in here. Because yeah, this has, you know, this UI goodies just is like a link to all links. So a lot of good stuff here. Cool. Let's take a break. Let's come back at, let's just call it 10:40.